Good morning from sunny Istanbul. It's a really beautiful day here as we close September. We don't have foliage, but we're going to experience a wonderful autumn. I can't say the same thing for the Turkish economy. This is Atilla Yeşilada from Real Turkey channel. I'm broadcasting solo today. And the first topic we're going to cover is the IMF visit to Turkey, which created an economic and political tsunami. To set the background, Turkey is a member of IMF. In fact, a Turkish citizen currently sits at the board of directors, executive directors of IMF, and we do pay our dues annually. So IMF, as it does with every member nation, visits our country to write what they call an Article IV Consultation report, which is not connected to any kind of standby arrangement, but expresses the general views of IMF researchers about the particular conditions prevailing in the country, as well as their forecasts. The IMF report was extremely critical. Of course, understanding the polite diplomatic language of IMF is the next most difficult task, next to understanding FOMC statements, but I have become an expert at parsing them. Essentially, IMF says, your fiscal policy is kaput, it's unsustainable, you need to reduce expenditures or find new ways of raising revenue equal to 1% of GDP. That's roughly $7 billion per annum. 2, transparency is required, in particular, Turkey's agreements with constructors to build these roads, canals, tunnels, etc., are not disclosed in the budget statements, and we don't know what Turkey's implicit liabilities are. You better come clean on that. 3, it emphasized the importance of a tight monetary policy because Turkey's inflation is by no means under control, which to me suggests that they are not very happy with the very rapid pace of central bank's rate cuts, which, for your information, will continue whatever the central bank says, because our President Erdogan gave forward guidance saying he wants single-digit interest rates very soon. 3, and most importantly, in my view, IMF expressed polite disbelief in the NPL ratio, non-performing loans ratio, in our banking system, which is currently 5. But according to the banking regulator, BRSA, banks will have to write off bad loans worth of roughly $8 billion before the end of the year, which will increase it to 6.3%. IMF wants the loan situation or loan conditions in the banking industry to be subjected to a stress test from a third independent party and the results to be made public. Given that IMF is a multi-member institution and has to be polite to everyone, these are pretty strenuous criticisms. Furthermore, IMF forecasts only zero growth, 0.25% GDP growth this year. Hasn't really issued a forecast for next year, but from previous work, we know it's about 2%, completely at odds with our President Erdogan's desire of escalating Turkish growth rate to 5%. Clearly, this is not a very positive report, but interestingly enough, the Ministry of Finance and Treasury has not objected to it, and in fact allowed it uncensored and unamended to be published in IMF's website, so the entire world knows what's going on. This is the economic aspect. The political aspect is very interesting and to some degree speculative. I collect my sources from pro-AKP press. I'm not an IMF expert, but it appears to me that this delegation has an unusually high number of very high-level officers from IMF, such as the Europe desk chief, I believe, which suggests to me that IMF is extremely worried about Turkey's economic conditions. Remember, it has made a huge loan to Argentina, but delayed the last tranche, roughly $5 billion, because of elections and the fact that the opposition leader Fernandez wants to renegotiate these loans, it is probably thinking whether it has the resources and what kind of conditionalities need to be imposed on a standby agreement in case Turkey calls for rescue, which in my view will happen in 2020 or even before the year ends. It also visited members of the opposition. In CHP, it met the former Treasury Undersecretary Mr. Faik Öztrak, sitting deputy. And in EYP, the Good Party, it visited Mr. Durmuş Yılmaz, former central bank governor, both of which expressed negative views about Turkey, as I am. These visits are usual, regular. IMF says in the past it has always talked to the opposition leaders. The opposition parties said there is nothing secret. I mean, we told them what we tell to the public as part of our duty as the opposition parties. Nevertheless, AKP was extremely angry about these visits, accused the Turkish opposition parties of undermining Turkey's economic performance and ratting Turkey to IMF, and says it finds such visits inappropriate and they need to receive prior permission, which they don't. IMF can visit anyone it wants in Turkey, including Atilla Yeşilada. But I think the political angle is extremely interesting here. The reason why AKP has shifted the debate from the report to this meeting between the IMF delegation and opposition members is that it is also considering that Turkey may need a standby aid next year and is trying to conceal that fact by putting the spotlight on the opposition. Why do I think so? Remember, at the beginning of the video I said IMF is rather suspicious about the magnitude of bad loans in the banking system. These are not going to be 6.3% of the entire loan portfolio by the end of the year. My interviews with banking insiders as well as members of other multinational institutions and publicly available reports suggest that unless Turkey miraculously experiences a growth spurt within the next 12 months, the bad loan ratio could rise to 15, maybe 20% of bank loans, which is something like $60 billion, which of course needs to be replenished, written off and replenished. Neither the Treasury nor the banks have that kind of money. So IMF has left with a furor in its wake, but I'm fairly sure it will come back, which would be good for the Turkish economy and markets. Atilla Yeşilada saying goodbye from Istanbul. You have just watched the Real Turkey channel. If it piques your interest, please ask others to watch it and subscribe to our channel.